Hey guys, I own a self-storage facility. I love my self-storage business. So in today's video, we're going to do a breakdown on how do you get into this business? What kind of pitfalls are there? And how do you build a process or a system to go after self-storage? So if you've ever dreamed of getting into self-storage, today's video is for you. We're going to talk about how do you evaluate, how do you find, and just do a general breakdown of getting into the self-storage business. The purpose of this video isn't to talk you into storage or out of storage. It's just the realities of owning a smaller facility. I have an office person, she manages a storage facility. Customers bring their own locks. She spends maybe 20 minutes a week managing a total of 38 self-storage units. This one here, the tenants came in, rented off me for 6 months, and now we got a storage locker full of junk that we've got to get rid of. This person, I believe, just moved out and they cleaned the unit out. So when we rent this out, it'll be $85 per month. And one of the things that I have seen, a lot of these people on social media that watch a video by a social media person that owns self-storage, they immediately say, I'm gonna go buy a self-storage facility. I'm going to overpay for it. I'm going to get a loan for it that barely will produce cash flow, meaning a facility like this one that brings in $24,000 a year in total top line revenue, they'll go out and get a loan that will cost $18,000 a year in total debt service. Now, that principal acts as a savings account. Part of the loan payment's going to go for interest, part of it's going to go for principal or debt pay down. And they say, well, I will just raise prices, will exceed inflation, and I'll just buy a money printing machine. And the reality is, when we bought this, our biggest units, these are our biggest units, they were rented for right around $60 per month. We've gone up to $80 to $85 per unit on the large ones. The other ones have seen a $10 increase. Meanwhile, an owner in my same market here in Circleville, Ohio, they bought another facility. They raised prices $40 to $50 per unit on comparable units. And what happened was the tenants moved out. Not all of them. Some of the tenants are going to pay whatever the price is. Some of my tenants will pay $150 a month for these because they just don't have a place to put their stuff. When we raised our prices, we had 1 or 2 people move out, which for us was okay. So when you go and you look at a deal, you have to be able to vet the deal and figure out whether there's an ability for the prices to go up. You do this by either getting online or calling all of the competitors in your area and seeing how much availability they have. When we bought this facility, all of our competitors within a 2-mile radius had a waiting list. They had no vacancies whatsoever. Fast forward to today, that was 2021, we're now in 2024. Now you call these facilities, they have 5, 10, 20 units available, and they're offering first months free for the rent. So that means our supply of storage lockers has gone up. The demand for them has probably been stagnant. So economics says you either lower the prices or you lose money. So in this situation, there's vacancy and we compete with them. Now, in my town, we're the cheapest self-storage facility around based on a per square footage. North of me is another self-storage facility that has everything behind a gate. It's perceived as being safer. It probably is, but it's also double the cost with a decent number of vacancies. The maintenance and the upkeep on these units is very, very minimal. So this is by far the worst problem that we have to deal with our self-storage. This is vandalism. I don't know if it's caused by my tenant, but they have gone in and just absolutely destroyed this lock. We've put cameras up here to monitor the activities and figure out what's going on. We try to be a secure facility. Our tenants have all of their possessions insured, and vandalism is a problem that we're dealing with here in town. So we've left the self-storage facility, which is right up the street, maybe a mile, and we're here at the city park, and I want to show you the threat, the problem with self-storage. Someone took multiple cans of gasoline and intentionally burnt down the shelter house. Vandalism is definitely one of the big issues that you can suffer through as a self-storage owner. Now, a lot of self-storage facilities are going towards gates, barbed wire, or doing an interior self-storage facility. As you go through the process of ideation on, do I want to buy a facility? Do I want to build a self-storage facility from the ground up? You have to look through your area, see what the demographics are, see what the demand is. Hard for me to get high-paying, good quality self-storage tenants if there's a risk of vandalism. But just because you have a gated facility with keycard access, that doesn't mean you're going to solve all the problems. With my competitor down the road that's to the north of my self-storage facility, they've run into the issue where people are climbing over the gates to break in units because there is a perception that those units have nicer stuff in them. When you look at your market, Do a comparison. High security facility, low security facilities. You've got to look at what those rent rates are per square foot, their occupancy, compare them and realize that if you buy a facility or you build a facility, you're also going to be adding to the supply of the market in your area. Those are all very critical things that have to be taken into consideration when vetting or determining what a self-storage deal might look like in your community. Once you have looked at some storage facilities, you've vetted the marketplace, how do you get a deal? The process is going to be very similar to how you get a laundromat deal or a car wash deal. And one of the core things is you have to put yourself in front of everybody in your region or in your area that has what you want. Unlike a car wash and unlike a laundromat, I would encourage you to consider the process of building from a ground up construction. What do we have here? Steel metal siding, steel flashing. We have flashing, we have a roll up metal door. We have an asphalt parking lot, concrete slab. Inside the units, there's a pole frame behind this wall. It's a 4x4 post, so it is built like a pole barn structure. We don't have a ceiling finishing. It is the bare 2x4 rafters. We have another wall. This is an exterior wall with 2x6 on it. So from my perspective, there's not a lot that goes into here. This overhead roll-up door is probably $500. The concrete floor is another $500 to $750. The roof is what it is. What I'm getting at is these self-storage facilities are not rocket science. When I called a turnkey provider to build a brand new car wash like we have directly behind here, they said it was going to be between 1.5 and 2.5 million dollars to build a car wash just like what I have up front. I've called other turnkey providers and asked them, how much would it cost to build self-storage? They came back and said a similar facility to this one would cost about $150,000 to $200,000. I paid $75,000 for it. I can rebuild it for $150,000 to $200,000. Meanwhile, I paid $350,000 for a car wash behind here. It'll cost me $1.5 to $2 million. I don't want you guys to get this idea that, oh, I need to go out and build a self-storage facility. I'm not going to encourage you to do that, because if you've never built anything before, there's going to be a very harsh learning curve. There's even going to be a harsh learning curve with hiring a company that can offer you a turnkey self-storage facility. And the reason is there are companies out there that are contractors that are lying dirtbags out there. And then there's other ones that are great, wonderful, ethical people, and they'll do right. But if you don't know the difference in how to vet construction companies, it can end up as a disaster. Last week, we fired somebody on my team over in Illinois. They took, as far as I'm concerned, $50,000 from me. And I'm an established business operator. This isn't my first rodeo. I've done about a dozen other businesses and I still got taken for $50,000. Now, thankfully, we caught the problem early, but it's one that could have evolved into a $100,000 to $500,000 problem by having somebody on my team that was essentially billing us every month for work that they did not do. And that's a similar problem that you're going to have with running or starting a business, especially from the ground up. If you don't have experience at running a business and dealing with trash, how to mitigate those circumstances, it can be very harsh. But self-storage, I will give it the fact that it's a very boring and easy to manage business so long as you have the right processes and procedures in place. In our facility, we rent a unit out. The tenant of the storage unit signs a contract with us. They get on an auto bill system with credit cards. We use Stripe, and they go over to Ace Hardware and they buy a lock for their unit. If there's a problem and we have to repossess the unit, we cut the lock off and then we put our own lock in it till they can pay their bill. If they don't pay their bill, then we evict them under Ohio Revised Code. We have a little bit of a weird situation where we have to auction the units off, which doesn't really make you money. Some people think it does. But it's been a great business for us, and you can quantify these businesses income-wise by just calling the competitor. Take, for instance, a storage facility down the street has 100 units. The average unit rents for $100 per month. Their top-line income can be $10,000 a month. 100 units times $100 per month, that's $10,000. If you call them and they have 20 empty units, that means they will be making $8,000 per month. So you'll know where that threshold is for a facility. It's something you can do with almost any self-storage facility in the United States. That's one of the things that I like about self-storage. It's very easy to vet these deals and figure out how much money is your competitor making. Now, in my case, I've done an analysis in several different markets, and I determined that there's still a good supply of tenants for self-storage. The cost to build is reasonably low. It would be relatively straightforward to come in and build your own self-storage facility. A person with a reasonable skill level, someone that has access to or is very knowledgeable in the skilled trades, it is not beyond a person or a small group of people to build your own facility yourselves. The problem with these self-storage facilities is a lot of very, very wealthy people are out there, and they are taking their retirements or the money they're generating off selling other types of real estate, and they're either doing a 1031 tax deferred exchange, meaning they owe the government money on taxes from a piece of real estate. They can trade from one type to another, so they love trading into these things, which increases the resale price. Or you have people with those 401ks and those retirements, they can take their retirement money and they can buy a facility like this. That's one of the biggest issues that I have seen with self-storage. A lot of very wealthy investors are buying facilities. What kind of facilities are they not buying? They're not buying facilities in small towns. They're not buying small facilities because they want to hire a full-time manager. Realistically, for a small facility like this one that's behind me that I own, you're going to have to do it yourself, which I know a lot of people that look at self-storage, they say to themselves, this will be a truly passive business. It's only passive if somebody else manages it for you, and then you're managing the manager. Taxes can be very high on these facilities. This facility, I pay around $1,400 a year, which is close to 1 month worth of income going towards the government for property taxes. It's actually very similar to my car wash up front. Car wash is more hands-on, also makes a lot more money than this facility. But as far as a business goes, this is the closest thing that I have found to passive income. Still requires management, still requires effort. From my standpoint, the only truly passive thing out there is buying very well-known dividend-bearing stocks that have a very long track record. There's never going to be a free lunch. But with self-storage, if you spend a lot of time on vetting the deal, doing your research, making sure that there's a oversupply of customers with not an oversupply of inventory in your area, you can do very well on these facilities. Maintenance-wise, they've been very low, other than the vandalism of locks being cut off by a customer. Once in a while, the door will fall off the track. That's about a $250 fee that we have to pay to a company. We don't do it ourselves because it's kind of dangerous because the spring up top is wound up. About $250 every time we have to have a company come out. Over the last 3 years, we've had the company come out a total of 4 times. All maintenance inclusive, about $2,000 over 3 years between 28 total storage units. Not bad at all, considering at 100% occupancy or close to it, we're doing about $2,000 a month in top line revenue. That, in my mind, is a list of the benefits and features and issues that you experience with a self-storage facility. If you have a question you want to ask me, post in the comments below.